what are we focusing on? Where is our attention going? Because if we're focused a lot on what's missing or what's not working or what's going wrong, then it makes sense that we're probably going to feel overwhelmed or stressed or frustrated by something. But if we shift our focus slightly to, but what is going right, or what is okay right now? What is going well? Where are things working out better than I thought they might be? That simple shift in perspective shows us that there's often many sides to the same story and that we don't have to fall trapped to just focusing on the negatives. Hi, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Sarah Yudkin, and I'm a relationship anxiety coach who's here to help you learn about all things love, relationships, and how to navigate anxiety in your relationships. If relationships are really meaningful to you and you've gotten any value from my videos so far, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to my channel and become a member of the You Love and You Learn community. This goes a long way to supporting me in this channel and makes sure that you don't miss any new videos coming out. And if you enjoy this video, I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a like and a comment so I know what's resonating. Thank you for watching, and let's get into it. I'm excited to share my key takeaways from week 2 of The Artist Way, which is recovering a sense of identity. Now, compared to the introduction and week 1, I would say there's definitely less things in this chapter that jumped out at me, but still plenty of things that really hit hard or really made me stop and think, and things that are not just related to artistry or creativity, but really just being human. So let's dive in. The first thing that really stood out to me that Julia Cameron has mentioned in multiple chapters of The Artist's Way is that self-doubt is going to be so common in whatever we are pursuing. And there's a lot of emphasis on the fact that we will doubt ourselves throughout the process, whether it's, are we doing morning pages right? Or I'm never going to be able to do this, or I'm never going to be able to actually be as good as I want to be. She gives countless examples of thought processes that people have when it comes to self-doubt. And a quote that really jumped out at me related to this was, as we gain strength, so will the attacks of self-doubt. So as we continue to move closer and closer towards whatever goal we have, we will also have more and more attacks of self-doubt. And that is pretty common, I would say, in a lot of what I have found just as an online business owner, or as I become, really in depth with trying to do something new. There's a lot of voices of self-doubt that creep in. Are we sure we want to keep doing this? Are you sure you're good enough? Is this the right thing to be doing? And so I love that she's validating that. And this quote really jumped out at me as well. Just as a recovering alcoholic must avoid the first drink, the recovering artist must avoid the first think, which is basically avoiding self-doubt. So I really just like how much self-doubt is normalized, because obviously that's been a big pillar of what I talk about in my journey with relationship anxiety. And I think that self-doubt is so much more common than we realize across just being human and across people who are navigating careers or navigating friendship decisions or navigating transitions in their life. Should I move? Should I change jobs? Should I do this? Should I do that? It's so common to doubt ourselves, but what is the part that I think gets us stuck is when we think that we should never doubt ourselves. And so then we think that any form of self-doubt must mean we're doing something wrong or bad. So really glad that Julia normalized this in chapter 2 of The Artist Way. The reason this chapter didn't resonate as much with me as previous chapters in the book so far is because there's a huge emphasis in this chapter about being aware of the people that we surround ourselves with in our life. And there's an emphasis around 2 specific types of characters that she talks about, or I guess she has certain words for, people to be weary of in your life. And the first is poisonous playmates, which are basically people who have trouble with you being your most authentic creative self, people who want you to stay the version of you that they are comfortable with or that they know and expect. So basically people who don't really fully support what you're doing. And then the second type of person to be aware of are crazy makers, which she explains as certain personalities that kind of create storms and chaos around you, which distract you from leaning into the work that you're doing, be it creatively or just showing up in the world in the way that you want to. And Luckily, I'm not just saying this, but I don't feel like I thought of people in my life that fell into these categories. I wasn't reading the chapter thinking, ooh, like, yes, that person sticks out as a poisonous playmate or a crazy maker. That really wasn't my experience. I didn't resonate with a lot of the chapter, which is so fortunate. And I feel very grateful for the people supporting me. But I think that the message she was trying to get across is to just be conscious of who you are surrounding yourself with and the people that you share your goals with, and be mindful of, are those people supportive of you? Are those people encouraging you to be your most authentic self and to show up in ways that you're excited about? Or do they try to impose their expectations on you? So I thought that sentiment was good to keep in mind as any sort of person, anyone who's just trying to show up in the world in the best way they can, is to create a sense of clarity around the type of people you surround yourself with. So that wasn't groundbreaking for me to read through, perhaps, but it did remind me that I'm very lucky to have such supportive people in my life. And right when I sent out the email about my first YouTube video, both of my parents within the first 24 hours responded via email saying that they had watched it and that they were proud of me for sharing. So I feel lucky that that's the type of support that's been modeled for me. Something else that did stand out to me from this chapter was the idea of skepticism and its role that it will play as we are venturing out into something new, whether it is a creative venture or something in our careers or something in relationships. But she says, perhaps the greatest barrier for us as we look for an expanded life is our own deeply held skepticism. And the key thing that resonated with me about the skepticism part or section in this chapter is that what she talks about is just how important it is for us to air out the doubts that we have and to actually explore these doubts, or else they will probably hold us back and sabotage us. And I feel like this is so true what I've found for relationships as well. For example, if I have doubts of, am I capable of being a good partner, or am I capable of having a long-term relationship? If I never air those doubts out and explore them, then I may go around for the rest of my life feeling like, oh, I might not be capable of having a long-term relationship, or I'm just too anxious, or, relationships don't work out for me. If I have these unhelpful beliefs, then the only way that I can move through those or relate to my doubts about myself differently is to air them out and explore them. The same is true about having doubts about our creativity, and that's what she's primarily talking about in this book, is that if we start tapping into our creativity, but we have doubts that it actually matters or that it's doing any good, or why even bother because what's the point, then we have to be able to look at those doubts and air them out and explore them, or else they will continue to sabotage us and make us think that why even bother, or we shouldn't do the thing. So really the message here from Julia Cameron in this chapter is that we want to do our best to set aside our skepticism and practice being open-minded. Staying open-minded to new pathways that present themselves to us, or to new ideas or moments of serendipity or synchronicity that seem to pop up. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean we have to go around looking for signs in our life for everything, but just being open-minded to other ideas, other pathways. And I think that this week, a really good example of that actually popped up, which was in my artist date this week. I ended up coming across someone from my past corporate job life in the most kind of coincidental, serendipitous way. So I was getting coffee with a friend and I was walking around afterwards in that area just to explore. And I passed this cute little plant and boutique store, like a flower shop, a boutique. And I had thought, oh, this is really cute. I like the look of this. But I just was not really in the mood to stop at that moment. And I just kept walking and I was like, I feel like I need to just keep exploring this area. But on the way home, I turned back and I passed that same flower shop. And even though I didn't recognize it or know what it was, I was like, let me just go check it out and see. I don't have anything else to do. My original plan for the artist date was going to an artist gallery, but then I decided to pop in here just to kind of kill the time in between. And I happened to bump into an old coworker. And she was like, Sarah, is that you? And come to find that her and her husband own the flower shop. And she took it over a few years ago. And it was so just fun to reconnect with her. And then she ended up directing me down the street to a very cute vintage shop that is also owned by someone that lives nearby, a small business owner. And it was just really cool to connect with these two women and feel like there is a small business community nearby, because sometimes it can feel really lonely. And even though both of their businesses are more retail and in-person shops, and mine is online and digital, it was just really nice to connect with others. And who knows if there will be anything that even comes from those connections, but reconnecting or connecting with other people in the area feels really cool. And so that was a fun artist date moment. My first artist date last week that I mentioned, of going to Goodwill and finding a new outfit, that was cool, but it didn't necessarily lead to anything that stood out to me. But this week's artist date really felt like there was a moment of connection and fun that came out of it. So that was really cool. And a quote that ties into that story is, in this chapter, Julia says, one of the things most worth noting in our creative recovery, and I added, or any type of healing journey really, is our reluctance to take seriously the possibility that the universe just might be cooperating with our new and expanded plans. And that little serendipitous moment of seeing my old coworker and just getting to share more about what I'm doing and all of that and hear more about her, that felt like just a little nudge from the universe of like, oh, these artist dates are actually working, or these artist dates are a fun and enjoyable way to try new things. So that really felt like a nudge from the universe. And I think instead of being reluctant to take that seriously, I really tried to appreciate that that moment even happened. And the last big key theme that I thought was worth noting from this chapter, that I thought Julia did a great job of explaining, and I think is really something I have room to practice, so I'm excited to practice this more intentionally, is she talks about the importance of our attention and really staying present. And there's a quote that says, the quality of our life is in proportion always to the capacity for delight. And the capacity for delight is the gift of paying attention. And she gives a couple examples of like going outside and actually seeing the really pretty flower there, or actually noticing the shift in the light when the sun sets, or just being aware of what's going on around you versus feeling like you're just kind of going through the motions. And so this notion of paying attention and being present is, I think, really something that I've been lacking lately. I feel like I have definitely been in more scrolly mode, or just doing things just to do them. And so this really gave me a nudge to want to slow down and be present and appreciate what's around me. And when we are not being present, she talks about that there can be kind of a unintended consequence, which is that we can get creatively blocked because we are addicted to the fantasy of what's going on instead of the reality of what's going on around us. And so instead of working or living in the now, she says that we can spin our wheels and indulge in daydreams of what could have been or would have been or should have been. And so I think that these two things tie in together nicely, because if we are not being present, we might be getting caught up in fantasy and getting stuck in the past or looking ahead to the future. But when we are really grounded and paying attention to what's right here and right now, it helps us feel like we can not only experience more delight, but probably more creativity, more love, more open-heartedness, more sense of inner safety, like I talked about in last week's video. And this has been coming up a lot in recent client conversations too, which is, what are we focusing on? Where is our attention going? Because If we're focused a lot on what's missing or what's not working or what's going wrong, then it makes sense that we're probably going to feel overwhelmed or stressed or frustrated by something. But if we shift our focus slightly to, but what is going right, or what is okay right now? What is going well? Where are things working out better than I thought they might be? That simple shift in perspective shows us that there's often many sides to the same story and that we don't have to fall trapped to just focusing on the negatives. So, those were the key themes that stood out to me this week. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is that Julia has this bulleted list in the book that says, in order to be an artist, I must ... And I'm just going to paraphrase some of the things that she shared, but instead of just seeing this as in order to be an artist, what I thought would be a helpful reframe is in order to move towards my goals, or in order to be a person I feel proud of, I must ... And here are the bullets that resonated most with me. Show up. So in order to grow in my life, or in order to feel proud of myself, I must show up consistently. I think that's so important. Showing up, doing the thing you want to do. In order to grow and in order to be someone I'm proud of, I must fill the well and take care of myself. In order to heal or grow or move through life in a way I feel proud of, I must set small, gentle goals and meet them. So taking those bite-sized actions, building that self-trust muscle. In order to grow and heal and show up in the world in a way I feel proud of, I must pray for guidance, courage, and humility. I really like this one, even though I'm never someone who's really had a prayer practice. It's not something that I grew up with, but I like the idea of just asking for help from the universe or from something else besides yourself. In order to be someone I feel proud of or to grow, I must do the work and not judge the work. This one's really big. I feel like writing a social media post or sending out an email or showing up and doing something creatively like creating ceramics. Our goal isn't to judge the work. Our goal is to just do the work and to show up consistently. Other things that she says that we must do in order to be a human we feel proud of or to be an artist: be alert for guidance from the universe or the great creator. Surround ourselves with people who encourage us to do the work, and then tap into our creative energy. So those felt like really nice little mantras or intentions. I think especially for me right now, what I'm trying to practice is showing up consistently, filling my own cup with self-care, and then setting consistent goals and actually meeting them. That's something that I've really found I've been working on this week specifically. So overall, my recap of week 2 Artist Way, I found a serendipitous moment in my artist date, so that was really cool. I really enjoyed that, and I'm excited to see what week 3 artist date brings. I don't know yet what I want to do, so if you've ever gone through the Artist Way book and you have ideas for artist dates, or if you have a favorite way you like to show up for yourself creatively, feel free to let me know in the comments. As far as my recap of week 2 morning pages, I still showed up and sat down at the page every day, but definitely felt like I was less excited about it. I was resisting it more compared to the first week, maybe because the dopamine of the newness wore off, but really proud of myself for keeping up the consistency of each day of morning pages. And the last thing that I wanted to share just at the end of the week 2 of the Artist Way that I was noticing and reflecting on is just a reminder and keeping it real that it's not easy to change or transition away from something that you feel comfortable doing. I've found myself trying to find the balance over the last couple weeks, and I'm sure it's going to be an ongoing practice of stepping into this new exploration mode of the types of things I post about, or doing this YouTube series, or, exploring different ways I can support my community, like leaning into the new and the mystery, balancing that with the structure and the systems that I have in my existing business, and making sure that I have processes to help set me up for success, be it making sure that I have stability in my routines or the deliverables that I have every month, for example, inside my Patreon community, which I love to do, and in my private coaching clients, and, for certain things that I do on a regular basis, like the podcast, making sure those systems are organized, making sure I have a consistent way that I'm bringing in financial stability as well. So, as much as I want to just dive into all exploration mode, there's also other things that I need to make sure are up and running. And so I think I just want to emphasize to anyone who's going through a change or a transition or feels like they're trying to step into something new, but they're still exploring what that looks like, that it's okay if you don't jump into the deep end with the change all at once. It's okay to dip your toe in and start doing some new things different. For me, like this series on YouTube, this is something that I'm trying and it's new and it's fun, but this doesn't have to be 100% of what I'm doing for the change to be rewarding or valuable or worth it. So I would say that's my kind of final thought that came up as I was exploring things this week, and really excited to be back for week 3 of The Artist Way. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear if something stood out to you or if you have any questions. Feel free to leave a comment, like the video, or subscribe. It means the world. And see you next time.